各位记者朋友，大家下午。
Good afternoon. Welcome to today's press conference. Now the floor is open.
谢谢发言人。总台央视记者提问：习近平主席。
CCTV, during the state visit to Russia and the celebrations marking the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War of the Soviet Union, President Xi and President Putin signed a joint statement on further deepening the China-Russia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership and issued the joint declaration. President Xi also had bilateral meetings with the leaders of other countries and exchanged their views on carrying forward a correct historic perspective on World War II, staying true to multilateralism and defending international fairness. Against the backdrop of risks and challenges facing the current post-war international order, why is it important to defend the victorious outcomes of the World War II? President Xi Jinping successfully visited Russia, which included a state visit to Russia and attending the celebration marking the 80th anniversary of the victory of Soviet Union's Great Patriotic War. China has released information about the visit, and Foreign Minister Wang Yi has given a comprehensive and in-depth overview of the visit to the media. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, and the World Anti-Fascist War. 80 years ago, China made great national sacrifices and decisive contributions to the victory of the anti-fascist war, together with the progressive forces around the world, including the Soviet Union. Key members of the anti-fascist alliance, including China, jointly agreed to establish the UN, formulated the UN Charter, and opened the historic chapter of countries uniting for peace and development. The painful lessons of World War II show that militarist aggression, power politics, and bullying acts are definitely not the way of peace. Zero-sum game and winner-takes-all mentality are not the path toward development. Only when countries join hands in safeguarding the international system with the UN at its core, international order underpinned by international law, and basic norms governing international relations based on the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, defending international fairness and justice, and continuously promoting an equal and orderly multipolar world and a universally beneficial inclusive economic globalization, can the vision of saving the succeeding generations from the scourge of war in the preambles of the UN Charter be turned into reality, and human society truly achieve peace, stability, progress, and development. As President Xi Jinping pointed out, the more complex the international landscape is, the greater the need to stay committed to and defend the authority of the UN. As the first country to put its signature on the UN Charter and a permanent member of the UN Security Council, China will never allow the world to return to the law of the jungle where might is right. We will work with the international community to jointly defend the victorious outcomes of World War II, stay committed to true multilateralism, safeguard the hard-won peace, and pursue a brighter future for humanity. Next one, please.
谢谢发言人。新华社记者提问：中方发布了巴西总统卢拉。
Xinhua News Agency on China's announcement of Brazilian President Lula's visit to China. How does China view the current relations with Brazil, and how can you share with us the program and China's expectation for the visit? China and Brazil are major developing countries and emerging markets. We are both BRICS members and important members of the Global South. Bilateral relationship has always been a forerunner in the relations between China and fellow developing countries. Last year, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties. President Xi Jinping paid a successful state visit to Brazil, and the two presidents announced joint efforts to build a China-Brazil community with a shared future for a more just world and a more sustainable planet, and promote synergy between China's Belt and Road Initiative and Brazil's development strategies. China-Brazil relations have entered a new historical stage. President Lula is the leader of a major Latin American country with important influence and a seasoned statesman in the international community. This is President Lula's 6th visit to China and marks the 3rd exchange of visits between the two presidents within 2 years. China believes that on the current international landscape fraught with changes and turbulence, this visit is important, which will add new substances to China-Brazil community with a shared future and demonstrates the firm resolve and responsibility of the two countries in leading greater solidarity and coordination among Global South countries and promoting stability and prosperity in the region and beyond. During the visit, President Lula will also attend the opening ceremony of the 4th ministerial meeting of the China Select Forum and other events. China attaches great importance to Brazil's vital role in Latin American and Caribbean affairs and stands ready to work with Brazil for new progress in building a China-Brazil community with a shared future. Next one, please.
RIA Novosti. Russian President Putin on the 11th proposed to restart negotiations without preconditions. What is China's comment on that?
On the Ukraine crisis, China's position is consistent and clear. We support all efforts for peace and hope that relevant sides can continue to seek a fair, lasting, and binding peace agreement acceptable to all parties concerned through dialogue and negotiation so as to eventually realize the political settlement of the Ukraine crisis.
Bloomberg News, we understand.
彭博社，由于中美在瑞士的谈判成果，中国将降低对美关税，降到10%，而美国也会降低对中国的关税。中方对该成果有何评论？
On the high-level meeting between China and the U.S. on economic and trade affairs, we have released information. Just now, I got the further information. The two sides just now released the joint statement reached at the meeting, which you may refer to. Next one, please.
日本共同社 Japanese
Kyodo News。昨天，日本海上保安厅表示，他们在冲绳县钓鱼岛附近发现了一艘中国钓鱼船，该船向日本专属经济区内的海域投放了一个管状物体。日本海上保安厅敦促停止其活动。科考船的目的是什么？这个管状的物体是什么？外交部对此有何评论？
钓鱼岛
and its affiliated islands have always been China's territory. Chinese maritime scientific research vessel carrying out activities in relevant waters is entirely within China's sovereign rights.
下一个问题。
Next one, please.
谢凡人，中国新闻社记者提问。据报道，印度和巴基斯坦于5月10。
It's reported that India and Pakistan agreed on an immediate ceasefire on May the 10th. The two sides will hold talks again on May the 12th. We noted that member of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee, Director of the Office of the Central Commission for Foreign Affairs, and Foreign Minister Wang Yi had telephone conversations respectively with Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister and India's National Security Advisor on the night of May 10th, and many countries also have played a positive role in easing the tensions. What is China's comment? China noted the reports. The ceasefire between India and Pakistan serves the fundamental and long-term interests of the two countries, contributes to regional peace and stability, and meets the common aspiration of the international community. China supports and welcomes this. India and Pakistan are and will always be each other's neighbors. They are both China's neighbors as well. Since the start of the tensions, China has been in close communication with relevant parties and called on the two countries to remain calm, exercise restraint, and avoid the escalation. On the night of May the 10th, member of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee, director of the Office of the Central Commission for Foreign Affairs, and Foreign Minister Wang Yi had telephone conversations respectively with Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister and India's National Security Advisor to promote the ease of tensions and realization of a full and lasting ceasefire. Both Pakistan and India made positive remarks on this. China hopes that India and Pakistan will consolidate and continue the ceasefire momentum, avoid further conflict, properly handle differences through dialogue and negotiation, and return to the track of political settlement. China stands ready to continue keeping communication with India and Pakistan and play a constructive role in realizing full and lasting ceasefire and keeping the region peaceful and stable. Next one, please.
Thank you. Ukraine Foreign News Agency. 2 questions on Russian invasion of Ukraine.
乌通社，乌克兰、欧洲国家和美国提议从今天开始停火30天。目前俄罗斯方面尚未对此作出回应。那么中方如何评价有关停火30天的倡议？第二个问题，美国总统特朗普表示，他希望大国更积极地参与解决俄乌战争。他特别谈到了土耳其和中国。外交部对此有何评论？
我刚才已经阐明了中方。
Just now, I stated China's position on the Ukraine crisis. We support all efforts conducive to peace and hopes that relevant sides can continue to seek a fair, lasting, and binding peace agreement acceptable to all parties concerned through dialogue and negotiation so as to eventually realize the political settlement of the Ukraine crisis. We always believe that dialogue and negotiation is the only viable way out of the crisis. China stands ready to, in light of the will of the parties concerned, work with the international community to play a constructive role for the resolve of the crisis and realization of lasting peace. Next one, please.
Hi, this is Bloomberg News again.
彭博社，关于中美贸易谈判，中方是否会取消对稀土和其他关键矿产资源的出口限制？
消息稿。
Please refer to the information concerning the meeting released by China and the joint statement for your specific question.
下一个问题。
Next one, please.
谢谢发言人。中国日报记者提问：据报道，9日，
China Daily on May the 9th, the Taiwan authorities made irresponsible remarks on China-Russia joint statement of CPC's contribution to war and said that the Carrot Declaration and Postman Proclamation affirmed that the ROC's sovereignty to Taiwan and that Taiwan has never been part of PRC. And the universally recognized status quo is that the two sides are not subordinate to each other, was China's comment. Relevant remarks once again revealed that distorting facts and history and spreading lies and false narratives are go-to tactics of the DPP authorities, as well as the DPP authorities' nature of recklessly seeking Taiwan independence. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the victory of China's People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, the World Anti-Fascist War, and the restoration of Taiwan. United as one under the banner of the Chinese United Front Against Japanese Aggression, which was advocated and established by the CPC, the Chinese people launched a relentless struggle against and defeated the brutal Japanese militarists. With immense sacrifice, they carved out an immortal epic of heroic resistance and ultimate victory. Taiwan's restoration to China is a victorious outcome of the World War II and an integral part of the post-war international order. A series of instruments with legal effect under international law, including the Carrot Declaration and Potsdam Proclamation and the Japanese Instrument of Surrender, have all affirmed China's sovereignty over Taiwan with undeniable historical and judicial facts. There's only one China in the world. Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory. The People's Republic of China's government is the sole legal government representing the whole of China. Though the two sides of the Taiwan Strait have not yet realized complete reunification, the mainland and Taiwan belong to one and single China, and Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. This fact has never changed and does not allow any change. This is the real status quo in the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan has never been a country. It was not a country and will never be a country in the future. No matter how and what the DPP authorities do or say, it will not change the fact that Taiwan is part of China's territory. This is a historical and judicial fact. It will not change the international commitment to the One China principle, and China will and must achieve reunification. Next one, please.
Hi, Bloomberg again, on a separate topic.
彭博社上周五，欧盟驻华大使表示，中国一直在忽视欧盟对贸易的担忧。外交部对他的言论有何评论？
今年是
This year marks the 50th anniversary of diplomatic ties between China and the EU. Over the past 5 decades, China and the EU have closer dialogue and exchanges, converging interests, bigger scale and size of cooperation, and fruitful multilateral coordination. We've established more than 70 dialogue mechanisms, had in-depth communication on cooperation and concerns, reached many common understandings, and promoted the profound growth of China-EU relations. Annual trade size between China and the EU grew from 2.4 billion to $785.8 billion, up by more than 300 times. And bilateral stock investment surged from zero growth to $260 billion. Unilateral visa-free policy of China covered more than 20 EU member states. Facts show that China and the EU pursue mutual success and common development. The comprehensive strategic partnership not only benefited nearly 2 billion Chinese and European people, but also set a fine example of mutual cooperation in the globalized world. Next one, please.
China Arab TV, President Trump said that China-US trade talks have had positive outcomes. Is China satisfied with the outcomes?
I just responded to that. We have released a readout and the joint statement reached at the meeting, which you may refer to.
下一个问题。
Next one, please.
还有其他问题吗？
Anything else?
好，那今天记者会就到这里。
Then let's call it a day. Thank you for coming.